Obi-Wise Kenobi said, "Look, kids, make good choices when negotiating."
Because that's what we're going to talk about today.
You kind of startled me a little bit. Ticker.
Negotiating money. That's what we're talking about today.
Yeah, so the thing that we're going to talk about with negotiating, there's a couple, you got to play it close to the chest, right? Because this is a topic that sometimes people are really afraid of or uncomfortable with, right?
And don't know how to approach it.
Yeah, so here's kind of the rule of thumb when it comes to negotiating for more money, whether you are in a current job or in something that's coming up, an opportunity. He who speaks first loses. Right? If I'm the first one that says, I need XYZ amount, they're going to say, like, no, you're
paint
too
yourself
much.
into a corner when you have a lot of room for opportunity.
When you could have gotten more.
Totally.
Yeah. So you got to be careful with that, right?
If you're the applicant, you want the employer to speak first, and if you're the employer, you want the candidate to speak first.
Yeah. So basically, just have a stalemate with your eyes. Just be like, I would lose because Jared's eyes are beautiful.
Stop it. I get lost in your eyes every day.
It hurts.
It's true. So when should you talk about money?
Well, I think that's one of the things is, when someone comes to you, and I've had this experience before. I was very inexperienced in this situation. I've had that experience before. They say, how much money do you want? And I was unprepared for that question.
Yeah.
And so, I said a certain amount. And actually what they did is they asked me how much was I being paid currently. And at that point I was just like, crap, also I'm not a good liar. And so I'd be like...
Well, lying's not good.
Bad, right? Yeah. So I'm not going to lie. I'd be like, I need $100,000. I'm like, sir, this is a grocery store. You're bagging groceries. Yeah. And I'm like, well, anyway, it was worth a try. No, but it was a situation where I didn't know exactly what to do, and so they came to me and said, how much are you being paid? So, the thing is you have to be prepared, right? So when to talk about it is when you're prepared to talk about it.
Yeah. And if it never comes up during the interview process, it will come up when they make you a job offer.
Yeah. So you should be prepared just overall.
And if you're the candidate, you don't have to speak first if they call and say, we'd like to make a job offer. Here's the offer. Then you can say, awesome, I know that I'm on the table, but the risk at that point is if you counter with too much, there may be another person that's just equally as good, and if you say, I need an extra 10%, they're going to say, no way, we got plan B that is the same price or a little bit more, and we'll take that person instead. So you got to be careful about it. And so when you want to ask for more, you need to be careful. Mm-hmm. Because when you ask for more, not only could you put yourself out of running, but you don't know what the employer is actually looking at. And so part of what you can discuss during the interview process or during negotiation is you could find out, how do they view compensation? And so one of the things we'll talk a little bit about is total comp versus base salary. Yeah. And there's a lot of ways to slice and dice how much you're actually going to get paid in a position. It's not just your base salary. There are a lot of other factors that go into that. And so when you're answering the question of how much are you currently making, there's this big ethical question of what do you say? Because you don't want to lie, right. But you also want to be honest. Maybe you get a car. I've worked with companies that provide a car stipend and they pay for your cell phone and all that stuff. You could add those up, group them together in a total comp package and say that this is what I'm looking for, and that's how you could ask for more. But if you're really interested in that job and you say, I need a car, they're going to say, we don't offer cars. No, we're going to move on to the next person. So you have to be selective about what is it you're going to ask for. Maybe you increase your base salary a little percentage, or maybe you ask for a signing bonus, or maybe you ask for them to pay for your cell phone. And so there's a lot of different ways you can kind of be strategic about what you're going to discuss. But the secret is to make sure that you're not playing too much or too little.
Yeah. You have to have faith in yourself and understand that you are worth more than you think you are, right? Because I think we all kind of get to a point where sometimes ooh, I don't know if they're going to pay this much, right? Because I think a lot of people get stuck in that situation. I can't find a new job because I'm making too much here or whatever that might be. But give yourself some credit, but don't make yourself to be the most... Understand that there's going to be a limit, right?
Yeah. And so I think another thing to help with that limit and understanding it without talking about actual compensation is understanding the company's financials. So a really, really intelligent question to ask if it's either a venture capitalist funded company, and there's a lot of that going on in the Silicon Slopes here right now. You could ask to take a look at the cap sheet. Now, the cap sheet shows how much equity people own in the company and how many partners there are that have that. And if there's a whole bunch of people, you notice that like the cap sheet has a ton of people, then maybe you could ask for some equity. Or maybe you could ask to look at the profit and loss statement. You need to understand what that's telling you, and you can see how much money they have to play with, and then ask about what their sales and marketing and product development plans are to see how would you spend that money if you were in their spot. And as you understand those financials, you have the idea of like, what's kind of the roof here that we have to play with. And if they're a $7 billion company, then maybe you could play a little bit higher. But you also have to realize they're more bureaucratic, and so they probably have salary grades that you fit within, and so you can't like be as free willy-nilly as you could with a startup. And
do some research, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not just about being prepared about what you're going to ask for, but also just research on the company, because these are things that if you don't know ahead of time, like you can't be prepared in the moment, right? When they say, here's our cap sheet, because you're like, I'm like, okay, stall.
And like,
cap sheet, give me the cap sheet, right? Like it's not going to work out that way.
And it sounds really smart. Like, let's be honest, when you interview with a recruiter, they're not going to know what the cap sheet even is. And so you're going to say, explain what it is, and they're going to be like, holy cow, this Blake guy is brilliant. Yeah. I think we really could use him, which is another reason you don't want to show how much money you want up front, because maybe you can convince them you're worth more as you go through the interview process.
But be like I said, be prepared and know your research, right? Because sometimes I'll throw big words into conversation to make it sound like I'm smarter, right?
What's that, Mike?
So when I acquiesce myself of the acquiescence that has been acquiesced, I know that I can acquiesce myself more. Right, that doesn't sound very smart, does it? No. I don't even know.
A few too many acquiesces.
You can't even say it. We've got issues here.
So,
but another part of it is also understanding the market. It's not just so much just understanding the financials of a company. Understand the market. Like a lot of times, a lot of companies will do a comp check, right? In other words, they'll basically go through and say, hey, this is how much this position is getting paid. And they're going to be able to see that. So if I go and I say this is how much I need, they're going to be able to say, well, look, this is what a company typically pays for these positions. Make sure that you can prove why you're worth that, right? Make sure that you can sell yourself when those situations arise. So you got to know the market, understand that they're going to know the market, but you can still paint yourself as and show what value you bring to the table.
But also understand like steps.
Yeah.
Like I interviewed someone recently, and they said they were currently making $12 an hour, but they wanted to make $25 an hour, and I was like, that does not compute.
A jump, pal.
No, right? Like, because the stats, the data that you can research would tell us that on average you get a 7% increase when you change a job. So, like, what's 7% on top of 12? That's what you should be looking for, not to jump to $25 an hour.
Yeah.
Okay, so comp versus total comp versus base salary. Like, what are some of those other factors you should consider?
Well, like you talked about this. I mean, a lot of things you have to take into consideration is your insurance, right? What kind of premiums are you going to be paying for your insurance? Or maybe there's mileage involved. Maybe I have to drive from 50 miles away, whereas other people are driving from 10 miles away. Yeah. So there are a lot of different little considerations that you take into place there that you can put into that total comp versus this is my base salary, this is what I need, right? So you kind of have to look at maybe what you've been currently making and kind of look at that change. Hey, if I take this job, these are the factors that now come into play. Maybe I wasn't paying for insurance, and now I'm going to have to.
Yeah, what's the insurance premium?
Maybe again, like I said, that mileage, or maybe like you mentioned a car, right? Most of the time, I'm not going to mention I'm going to need a car for this job, but there are things like mileage that I do have.
401k is a big one as well.
Yeah.
Like, what's the company match? So figure out those things. Like, create a spreadsheet and say, here's your total comp currently. Factor in holidays and paid time off and what that is at your hourly rate, and then factor it in for what they have at the new hourly rate you'd get offered, and then you can know what your total comp is, and you can compare those two things.
Right. Sometimes that salary might look bigger than what you're getting paid right now, but really it evens out or even goes less depending on the benefits that I have.
If you're looking to work with a startup, they'll give you a way lower base, but they'll give you a lot of equity. Find out what that equity is valued at, and how it vests, and those things will help you understand, like, what am I getting into as I do this. Now, counter offers for your current job is an interesting one. Have you ever countered somebody like on your current employer and said, I got a new job, I'm leaving unless you want to keep it?
Well, I mean, yes and no. Both times I've had a situation where that was kind of, well, I mean, I guess I've had multiple times, but they've never been like super drastic in the sense, what I mean is they've never been able to offer
more to be
there, right?
And so you just need to be aware that people may not beat what you're offering. And so if you're trying to play the game here and say, hey, current employer, I got another job offer, and if you want to keep me, you have to pay this. And in reality, you're getting like a lateral pay move. Be prepared for that company to say, okay, peace. Go have fun in your new job. And then you're stuck at this new job you may not be as excited about.
Or maybe you're interviewing at other places and you
don't
haven't
have
even received the job yet. And you're like, hey, P.S., I've got this other job offer, thinking that they're going to give you what you're looking for, what you want, when you don't even have that option yet.
And really make sure it's a good career move for you. Are you going to be happy if you stay in that current role? Like, because if is an extra 50 cents enough to make you like, all of my problems are gone?
Yeah.
And like, no, you still have all the problems from your current job, but you sure don't want a fresh, clean slate.
Right. Don't shoot yourself in the foot.
Yeah.
And remember, the bad things that happen to people are sometimes self-inflicted. I had nothing inspirational to say.
That was inspirational. You self-inflict when you do
self-inflict.
If negotiating is a slippery slope, friends.
Out of the air. There it is.
There it is. You got it.
Yeah, make good decisions, right? Make choices that benefit you.
Good luck and make lots of money.
Don't forget to subscribe.